Hello, everybody. This is Andrew Mercado Vasquez from Puerto Rico Forward, the podcast, and the PRF Review, the show based on the podcast Puerto Rico Forward. As I mentioned, today I'm going to just record a quick reaction video to recent events that are completely and directly related to the Puerto Rico issue. Let's get started. So what happened? Recently, on the 9th of July this year, so about 3 days ago, there was an indictment filed against 6 individuals. Of these 6 individuals, we have 2 heads of department of Puerto Rico's government. We have Julia Kelleher, which was a secretary of education, and we have Angela Avila Marrero, which was an acting executive director of the Puerto Rico Health Insurance Administration. The other 4 individuals, because there's 6 individuals in total, the other 4 individuals are just normal average citizens, and none of them are government officials. So what do we have in the indictment? We have 32 counts. 32 counts on the indictment. Of those 32 counts, here are the ones that pertain to the heads of department. We have Julia Kelleher. She has 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. She has 5 counts of wire fraud. She has 1 count of conspiracy to commit theft. We have Angela Avila Marrero. She has 1 count of conspiracy to commit theft, and she has 5 counts of wire fraud. The rest of the 32 counts pertain to the 4 individuals I mentioned earlier. Why is that important? Well, it's because the narrative, the news cycle, is that 32 counts are involved and we have government officials. And that's all they tell you. Of course, what conclusion do you reach? You reach the conclusion that the government officials have all 32 counts. That's not true. You can look at the indictment, it's online, search for it. What's the other important and relevant piece of information for this story to be completely understood? This illicit activity would not have been known if it weren't for an inspector general in Puerto Rico's Department of Education. That's important to highlight, and that was highlighted, it has been highlighted by a very well-known journalist called David Begnan. There is a report titled Ex-Education Secretary, 5 Others Held in Puerto Rico Investigation, and he points out that it was because of this Inspector General in Puerto Rico's Department of Education that this type of activity came to be known. If it weren't for this Inspector General, we can presume that this would still be going on. So it's because of a government official that this illicit activity is known and is being investigated, and these people are being brought to justice. That's another important piece of information that we need to take into account. What's the other important piece of information? Of the 2 heads of department, one of them isn't even from Puerto Rico. Julia Kelleher is not from Puerto Rico. She wasn't raised in Puerto Rico. She doesn't participate in Puerto Rico's environment, in government environment. I mean, you look up her biography and you find that she was born in 1974 in New York. She studied education in Cardinal O'Hara High School. She's from the States, so she was brought to Puerto Rico to head the Department of Education, and this is the result. So you can't blame Puerto Rico's culture of corruption to explain Julia Kelleher. You can't, because she's not from that culture. She's not from Puerto Rico at all. What does this all boil down to? The narrative in the news cycle is a narrative that is being pushed or responds to certain prejudices. And what are these prejudices? Of course, Hurricane Maria and the funds related to the recovery of Hurricane Maria are in play here because, as the President Trump has mentioned publicly, there is doubt in as far as the ability of local officials to handle the funds that would be given to them for hurricane recovery efforts. First off, this indictment has nothing to do with this money. There's not a single cent of those funds involved in this indictment. And second, no one asked that question or uses that premise, to withhold or to delay funds from getting into the hands of the people that need them in any other state or any other jurisdiction of the U.S. You don't have a whole debate surrounding how corrupt or non-corrupt the government of New York is when it comes to this type of fund, or the government of California. No, but you have that conversation when it comes to Puerto Rico, and it's fueled by prejudice, and it's fueled by ignorance, and it's fueled by the idea that Puerto Rico is not a part of the U.S. but belongs to the U.S. So therefore, we can treat Puerto Rico however we want. We can hold them to a different standard as we do to any other jurisdiction that has American citizens living in them. So these points, these considerations are important to really understand this story. I wanted to highlight them really quickly. If you like these quick reaction videos, let me know. Thank you so much for your support on all our platforms, including Patreon. Please support us on Patreon so we can continue this process, we continue this project onward. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Y que viva Puerto Rico.